Hi, welcome to my session. Today I'm going to talk about authentication in a smart TV app. We'll see a device code flow. So this is the agenda for today's session. I'll give you a background around device code flow. I'll show you a OAuth 2.0 device code flow. Then we will have a detailed demo of how and exactly what happens when a device code flow or how the authentication happens and how the access tokens are exchanged. And then I'll also share some resources which I have referred. I will also share some resources for further reading. So have you came across this scenario where you wanted to use an app on your smart TV and you are presented a screen like this? So these are the common scenarios these days where applications running on devices like smart TVs, game consoles, or printers need authentication. These devices or operating systems don't provide a web browser or have limited input capabilities. Examples of such scenarios are in applications running on IoT devices. We have seen the smart TV app and command line tools as well. So we have seen this in when you try to log into a command line interface in Azure. So when you try to log in, you are presented with a randomly generated code, which you can see here. The application obtained access using the two-step process of the flow. The device authorization flow enables the user to use a secondary device. So we can use your secondary device such as laptop or a mobile phone to complete the sign-in interactively using the code provided by the device. The initial device keeps polling the authorization server for a completed and successful user authentication. When it's available, tokens are issued through a back channel and application uses them to perform the web API calls and further actions. So let's see what exactly happens in the device code flow. So here, either you log into a CLI or you're logging to a smart TV, you are presented with a code to access the application. So in this case, what happens is we are going to take a scenario. I'll show you an example of using Azure AD. So in the Microsoft Identity Provider, you have this common endpoint called device code. You can make a call with these parameters with the client ID. This is nothing but your tenant ID, the application registered, the registration of the application registration ID of it. And then you need to share the, make a post request to user.read offline access and open ID profile email. So these are the scope which with this scope, we are going to make a call. So similarly, on the CLI. So what happens in this? So what is the request which you are sending? So once we make the request, we need to make the application will make a post request with client ID and scope. And once this request is made, the response of that request is it returns back you code, which we have seen on the Azure CLI. It sends you a device code, which is a long code. You have a verification URI. That is, this is the URI where you will go and enter the code. It has the expires in that how much time it will take to expire. And it will also give you a message. So this message, you can use in your application and show it on your on the screen. We have moreover seen these days we get a QR code where you scan it and you directly get redirected. Okay. So in the step 2 of this, what happens is This is your device, and this device is constantly making polling to the authorization server where the authentication is completed. Okay, so when you go to your web browser or a mobile phone, you can make a call. You can access the URL, verification URL, and you are presented with this screen. So with that screen, once you enter the code here, you will be presented with the user authentication screen. You need to provide your credentials, and those credentials are authenticated against the your auth server. And once you are successfully authenticated, you get a prompt message where it asks you to provide, do you agree to provide your consent to give the information what the the device is requesting. So with this consent, once you approve this, the request is sent to the authorization server that the authentication process is completed, and then the authorization server, because there is a constant polling going on here, in the next polling, it will send back the authentication is completed, and it will return back the access token and refresh token. Okay, so the authentication is completed. So to summarize, what we are sending here is the request, the post request, where we are sending the device code, the client ID, and the grant type. Okay, so these are the standard parameters what we send, and this device code we have got from the first request. And once this is sent, you will get a bearer token, you will get an access token and a refresh token. So with this token, once you get this token, you are getting the access to make the call. Either you're accessing your application, if you're logged into YouTube, you can make access your YouTube account and see the profile and information, what last videos and everything, or your subscription with the your YouTube subscription. And the refresh token is for refreshing your token, so that you need not be presented with the authentication once again. So let's see this in action. I have a Postman request configured here. Okay, so this is the first request what I have. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to make a call with this two IDs. So this is my client ID, that is the app registration which I have made, and the scope for which the access is made. So when I send this, when I make a post call, I get a new code, I get this verification URI, and also I get the device code. This is the device code. This device code is important for me because I will be making the next call using this device code. Okay, so let me take this and make the second call, which is to see whether the authorization is done or not. Okay, so I'm putting a grant type. I'm asking the device code grant type, and then I'm sending the device code, asking the authorization server whether the authentication is completed. Since I have not completed the authentication, here it shows that the authorization is still pending. Okay, it has written an error saying that the authorization is pending. Now let me go back and take this code and try to log in. Okay, so I am opening a private browser and I will access the endpoint which is provided. So this is the code which I am provided with, and this is the tutorial sample app which is trying to access. So I am authenticated now, and since I'm successfully authenticated, it is asking me only continue the download app and store website that you trust. So I'm providing my consent here. So as soon as I have consented, this the app verification is completed. And now if I go back to my Postman and make the call, this is a constant polling call what is being made. So I get the access token. So this access token has all the information and the access rights what I need. So if I go back and see what is there in this particular if I would like to see what I have this access token. So this is the token, a decoded token. Okay, so this is the name. I have the verification. I have signatures and issued at and expiry and things like that. So now I have the complete rights. With this token, I can make the calls and have continue with the actions. So this is how the device code flow work. Coming back to the screen. So to summarize, the device authorization grant or device flow is very useful for handling authentication and authorization when it is difficult for user to perform authentication using the device itself. The device flow takes the authentication out of band, allowing the authentication to occur on a more convenient device or app and end user device, that is your app. And then the client application will then poll the authorization server for a successful authentication and proceed when a poll response provides an access and refresh token. So this in short happens when you try to log in using your Smart TV app. So this is the flow, or this is what happens in the background, and this is how it is implemented. So these are some of the resources. If you would like to have further reading in this on this topic, these are different resources you can refer, and these are very useful, which I have referred to know about the device and how you can scenarios, where you can implement this. Thank you for joining today, and if you have any queries or questions, please post those into comments, and I'll make sure that I make sure that they will be answered.